Wherever you are in the world, good morning if it's an early morning, and if you're in the afternoon or evening hours, good afternoon, good evening. It's wonderful to be with you all. My biggest prayer before I ever work is that I serve you well and that I serve Spirit well. So let's see where our time takes us. What came up while Defying Gravity came on was from Hamlet, William Shakespeare's play Hamlet, Polonius's words, above this, to thine own self be true, is the words of Polonius in Hamlet. I was trying to think of what came right before it. This above all, to thine own self be true. And in the experience of our lives and our connection to Spirit and our experience of the evolution of our spirituality, being here as physical beings on this planet, trying to understand ourselves as physical beings on this planet, trying to understand that each man and woman that we come in contact is a reflection of the infinite as well, trying not to get caught in the experience of another being and brought into their life experience to a point where we lose ourselves. All of these things, I think, are ways within which we are challenged and reminded, to thine own self we must be true. I'm adjusting William Shakespeare's words in this moment. In the experience of our being, and in the experience of our spiritual evolution, and in the experience of our being present to who we are, we have opportunities in our lives to be able to stand strong within ourself, irrespective of another person's decision, advice, belief, etc. We watched last night a simple movie after the end of the workday, and one of the characters says to her girlfriend, because there was a nickname given to the young lady, she said, "It's only a word. The power is what you put behind the word." It was a nickname given to her by her mother in a way that wasn't charming. It was charming for the mother, but society used it in a way that was demeaning to her. And through the evolution of this character's experience in the film, she comes to a place where she won't allow anyone to have the power behind her nickname. She came to a place of being true to herself. Now, I'm saying that as a lovely story that we watched on Netflix, but I'm also challenging ourselves. Each of us has grown up at different times in our lives with different labels, different understandings, different beliefs that we've had to come to understand about ourselves and who we are. Let's take a simple one right now. I would venture to guess that most of you in this room, because you're a spiritualist and believe in healing and communication from the spiritual realm, have in some way at one point in your life been looked at as perhaps a little left of center, a little off the beam, a little perhaps misinformed. Believe me, I could not imagine anyone being more informed than myself or you based on our connection to Spirit. And while other people outside of us may not believe as we do, while other people outside of us may judge us because of what we do, while other people outside of us may think differently than we do, that does not mean we have to give up or capitulate our belief system or our way of living or being in the world based on another human being. What we do, in Polonius's words in Hamlet, is be true to thyself. Again, I'm adjusting them to thine own self be true. What I'm finding in the evolution of my spiritual walk here, let's examine that for a second. The spiritual walk here. What I find it is being or becoming is my coming to a place of understanding myself more fully. in the socialization of myself, I'll speak for myself in this moment, coming to understand myself based on what I was taught to believe by those who loved me, my parents, and what I was taught to believe by teachers in my life based on what the norm was, and what I was taught to believe by my employers about certain circumstances in life, all well-meaning people. But the beauty of the spiritual walk that I've had as a spiritualist minister and medium has helped to uncover the truth I've always known myself to be. So take a breath in on that, because I may be speaking of my experience, but ladies and gentlemen, every single one of you are sitting in this Zoom room at this Inner Spiritual Center service because you have a connection to not only the Inner Spiritual Center, but a connection to Spirit. And I can't help but believe that every single one of you, in the course of your understanding and growth with Spirit, come to learn more about yourself as an individual and have shed the layers of experience of what other people have thought, said, or helped you to believe yourself to be, and hopefully have come to become more of the person you know yourself to be. To me, that is the spiritual walk. To me, that is the experience of expressing the divine through ourselves as physical beings. In our experience of evolution spiritually, we've been given the privilege through this wonderful religion of spiritualism to have connection with teachers and guides, and more importantly, or equally as important, connection to our family and friends who have crossed over. And as a medium and as a minister, I always like to reference personal experience to be able to convey how it's shifted things. And in the experience of my mother's passing, many of you have known in January she passed, but I want to tell you a more recent story of her presence, not for me, but through me for my niece, very simply. My niece's birthday was in August, and I was on the phone. I called and I sang happy birthday to her, John and I, and after that, she and I chatted for 45 minutes and hung up the phone. And after we hung up the phone, I went about my work, and as 9:30 at night came around, I had a hot cup of peppermint tea, as I usually do. And as I'm creating my peppermint tea, my mother stands next to me and says, call your niece back, call her back. Now, as the medium, I don't receive my parents and my family because I am in service to you. It's a rare opportunity and experience. But as I call my niece back, I say, hi, how are you? I said, great. I said, you know what I do in the world. It's my way of walking her into what's about to happen if she wants it. She said, of course I know what you do. I said, well, I have someone here who wants to wish you a happy birthday. Can I share them with you? Oh, please. I said, I've got Nanny here. Simply put, I talked about an experience that my mother conveyed of playing with my niece as a little girl with paper dolls. Now, my niece grew up in LA, Los Angeles. I didn't know that experience. My niece was weeping on the phone. My father steps forward and talked about, he said to say to Kim, does she remember how to put gas in the car? My niece went hysterical laughing because when she visited my parents, she had the privilege of borrowing my father's car, but she had to call from the gas station because she couldn't figure out how to open the gas tank. In that experience, I was fortunate to be able to be in the space to receive information from my parents to pass along to my niece. In response, I got a lovely text 10 minutes later, best birthday gift ever. The reason for sharing a personal detail here is more not about my experience, but of the healing power of spirit and the reminder of the relationship. And in that moment, being able to share an experience that helped from what my niece's expression was, to right her, to set her straight again, to help her to feel reassured in some way. Coming back to the expression of to thine own self be true. I have the feeling that in our mediumistic moments, when spirit is coming in from the other side to give us support, I feel that they're trying to help us they're trying to help to remind us of who we truly are and what matters most. It's not whether or not we have a certain number of shekels or dollars or yen or pounds in the bank, and it's not whether or not we have the largest house or the best sports car. It is a reminder that we, as physical beings on this planet, are walking here to understand and know ourselves in connection to the source that created us. In the experience of spirit and to thine own self being true, I think every opportunity that we have to look at the information that's being shared with us, to be able to come to a place of understanding who we are, is paramount. In The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, which was an American film with Brad Pitt, he happens to regress from old age to childhood. And what I take from that film in this moment about our spiritual path and the way I'm describing the evolution of our soul is that it feels like we're meant to come back to a place of understanding ourselves in the purest sense of the word and in our purest expressive moments and ways of living in this world. That we, in essence, come back to the truth of who we were, or the truth of who we are, based on who we came into this world to be, not based on the socialization and all of the expression of the external environment. Now, that's not to state that we shouldn't abide by law, and that's not to state that we shouldn't pay attention to authority, but that does not mean we should not question the authority, and that does not mean that we should not look at the law to see if it's appropriate and to see what we can do to move humanity to a place of deepening and greater respect for self and the true law, or the abiding law or the law of the infinite, however you'd like to look at that law. I am not recommending revolution. I'm not. I'm just suggesting that within yourself, you come to a place of question and understanding of who you are in order to better be able to be the best that you can be here on this planet. In your expression of in the expression to thine own self be true. Have you ever been in a friendship or a more intimate relationship where you found that you got to a place where you were no longer being yourself, but you were being a cutout, or you were being a mannequin, or you were being somebody other than you knew who yourself to be? In those moments, we're given an opportunity to be able to stop and find ourselves again. I remember many years ago, in an early relationship, the partner saying to me, "I don't feel you're in love with me anymore." And it was a very, very important moment, because I knew myself in that moment. If I had said, "Yes, I am," I would have stayed true to that relationship for the rest of my life. But I took a breath in and I said, "No, you're right. This is no longer working." And in that experience, it wasn't that the relationship wasn't working. It was that I wasn't being true to myself in that moment and had to shift the way I was being. And in expressing that, the opportunity for all of us to shift the way we're being in relationship to being true to ourselves gives us a chance to either grow a relationship more fully, or to be able to step away from a relationship that no longer serves, but not to be in bondage or enslaved to a relationship based on another's dictation, based on another's belief, based on another's expectation of who they feel you should be. The best that we can be, my dear friends, is being true to ourselves. And while I say this 1,000 times, or maybe not 1,000 times in the spiritual address, but hopefully a couple of 50 to 100, my hope is that you get for yourself that every moment you have the opportunity to pause and think in that moment, if you are being true to yourself and the way that you're moving forward. Are you coming from a place of integrity about who you are in the world? As I'm maturing in my life, and I'm going to be, well, I'm 56 and a half, moving towards 57. I'm very much aware that I'm looking back at moments in my earlier days and thinking about things that I could have done better. And in those moments, I'm bringing more of a compassionate part to the part that didn't do things well in early relationship. And I'm understanding that in my teens and in my early 20s, I did not know what I know now about being in a relationship. And I try to be compassionate to the less gentle human being I was then. And as I move into my, oh God, I'm sounding old, but as I move into my adult years, I won't say senior years yet. I'm fighting that with every breath. But as I'm moving into my adult years, taking the opportunity to look back at myself as an expression of the divine and see where I wasn't connected and give compassion to that part. But hopefully, as I move into my more senior years, hold more compassion, not only for myself, but for the men and women who are in my life, who I'm fortunate to be graced with, because they are a reflection of the divine, and they are helping me to understand myself even more fully. I can even say of my dear friend here, Sharon, who's sitting at my side in her home, and I can say that of many of you on this screen, that you are a reflection of the divine, and each of you, in your loving way, have given me an opportunity to be able to refine my sense of self and understanding of self as a spiritual being. And to you, all of you, I say thank you for that, because you're giving me the opportunity to understand and know God more fully. And in that, I say thank you to you. And I ask you to remember that every human being that comes into your life is a magnificent opportunity to meet and know the infinite, and to know yourself more fully as the expression of the infinite in relationship. And to that I say to all of you, to thine own self be true. God bless you and thank you.